Hello there, viewers. This is Fred Bowden coming to you off the wall. I'm here with my partners, Mr. Eshet Austin and Mr. Chris Miller. We here to discuss a subject today concerning your children. And I'm sure you probably haven't even heard this proposed law 225 that they're trying to pass here in Delaware, which from my understanding they passed down in, I believe, Ohio.
Yep.
What they're trying to do is pass a law that your children or your child could go to the guidance counselor, to the school, and say, I want to be the opposite sex. And they would actually take your child from you and make that child what that child want to be without your consent. And if you do try to stop them or go against them, they will take you to court and put you in jail.
In other words, there'll be sanctions. Yep.
So, yes. So we want to go ahead and enlighten you on that subject. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Eshet Austin or maybe Chris Miller, whichever one that wants to take on this subject first.
Well, since I filed a lawsuit on Tuesday, the title of the lawsuit is Eshet Austin Affidavit of Filing of Service of Process and a Process of Service of Civil Suit in District Court of Delaware for an undisclosed sum regarding injunctive relief sought in both state and federal law as to prevent the proposed implementation of any part, component, portion, or element of Proposal 225 in the law and acceding to the full hearing of civil complaint before the court. That was filed on Tuesday. First of all, let's give thanks to Almighty God. Because what these people are doing is the opposite of that. It is ungodly of what these people are proposing. Part of the 10-page filing, because it's 10 pages filing, one of them was a submission from one of my associates here, Mr. Chris Miller. But I also pulled the law. Here is the law, Proposal 225. It's 7 pages. And the interesting wording they have here is sexual identity and sexual expression and gender orientation and gender information and all of this gender gentrification, gender this and that and that. Now, the reason I'm referencing all that is because the Delaware Constitution has a provision for the understanding reference to sex identified in the Constitution of 1897 as the differentiation between a male and a female. Nowhere in our Constitution is the word gender reference. So where do these people get this from? They just make it up. They just make it up and they just put it into the mix. And they hope that we don't pay attention to them enough and long enough that they can run this by us. Now I'm going to read you something that I have associated with this situation, which is 42 U.S.C. 1983. How many of you are familiar with that? I can't hear you. That was a joke. That was humor. That was humor there. Yeah, it was. Okay. Now, 42 U.S.C. 1983 provides deprivation of civil rights and protection every person who has under color of law, statute, ordinance, regulation, custom or uses, any state or territory or District of Columbia, subject or cause to the subject, any citizen of the United States or person within its jurisdiction thereof, deprivation of any rights. Now, your children have rights. That's why we're incorporating a 42 U.S.C. 1981. Your children have rights. That's a fact. But your children's rights are guardianship considerate rights. Why? Because the parent is the guardian. Now, what am I saying? These deviant people, and that's what I'm calling them, deviant people, want to have access to your children. Why? Because after 8 years of the experiment of Delaware marriage for men marrying men and women marrying women, they have concluded, ladies and gentlemen, that they can't have children. They've concluded that. It took them 8 years to come to that conclusion. That 2 men and 2 women can't have children with the exclusion of the other sex. It took them 8 years. I could have told them that in 2 days. Matter of fact, I did when I sued them way back then. Essentially what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is the consideration of how America became lost. Not just lost from the standpoint of domestic and social activity, but lost from the standpoint of losing a generation. See, the end result of what they're talking about doing is sterilizing your children. Sterilizing your children through the use of alteration. Think about it this way. Let's say hypothetically a 15-year-old goes to the guidance counselor. The end result will be experimentation on your child. I pulled a lot of social scientists, documentation from scientists from MIT and all across the nation. And there's one consensus. You know what that is? That an 18-year-old is not a 12-year-old. And that the reason why we enlist 18-year-olds into the military is because 12-year-olds aren't capable of making decisions. Then if that's the case, how is it possible that your kid can go to a guidance counselor and make a decision? The answer is they can't. These decisions are being made by adults for your children who wish to exploit your children. I use this in a prior litigation. I'm putting this out there to the homosexual and transgender culture out there. And I have a question for you. Because after 8 years, you just figured out that you can't have kids. But there's a problem with your philosophy and your culturalization. One is you have a very high suicide rate. That's a fact. I looked at some studies in Sweden and other countries, France, for example, very high suicide rate among transgenders and homosexuals. But there's a fact here. A rat, a bat, and a cat, a dog, a frog, and a hog, a mare, and a bear, and a hare. How do we know they exist? Because they have still here. They're still here. They're still here. All the bears are still here. All the mares are still here. All the dogs, hogs, and frogs. And now, what do we know? There was a male frog and a female frog, a male dog and a female. That's all that this is about, ladies and gentlemen. This is natural selection, which is natural reproduction of the perpetuation of society. You can't do that with homosexuals, and you can't do it with transgender people. Because they can't produce any offspring. They can't produce this past generation, and they certainly can't produce the next generation without your kids. Without indoctrinating your kids. Without recruiting your kids and sterilizing your kids for their sexual purposes. You have the floor.
And to add to that, I'm appalled, really. Absolutely appalled. That they would even attempt to do something of this magnitude. Like Mr. Austin said, in so many words, it's an atrocity, period. Even the Supreme Court in Myers versus Nebraska, chasing the legislature to even think about interfering with the parents when it comes to their children. They mentioned here that in that same decision, the Supreme Court also recognized the right of the parents to delegate their authority to a teacher when it comes to their children, in order to instruct their children. Children was protected within the liberty and the 14th Amendment. So what does that say? It's saying just the opposite of what this 225 proposal is saying. The parents are the one to instruct the teacher how I want. Okay, when you go into school with your children, the guidance counselor teacher says, well, I want your children to do this. What they're saying is that no. If your parents said no, I don't want them to do that, that's the end of the story. I don't want them being there or doing this. That's the end of the story.
Chris, can I ask you a question? How is it that to take a kid on a field trip, you got to get a parental note, but you can do sexual altercations to somebody's kid without one? Explain that one to me. Because I don't get that one, Mr. Mark Papura, who proposed this crap.
Absolutely. Anything outside of a parent's agreement, when the school wants to cater that to your children, is absolutely out of bounds. And it really is. And your child going to go to school and say, my parents won't let me be a little boy, but it's a little girl. And then they're going to drag that kid into the guidance counselor, get all the kind of information from their kid why your parents don't want to do this. And then when your parents come into the picture and say, well, I want my kid to stay a girl. That's what they are. this law says give the teacher the power to have that parent sanction. Now, if you think this ain't serious, think about your own kids.
You know, I like the way one of the social scientists put it. They put it that this is sexual impersonation. They put it that this is deluded thinking. They did a study in one of the documents that I pulled, a study going back to the 1960s with the same information that's going before these people now in Ohio and other places on these changes that they want to make. Do you know that in the 1960s and 70s, these kids were still having these ideations? And you know what happened? They did studies over the 20-year period. They found that 95% of the boys later on acted like boys and girls acted like girls. 95% of them. So what does that say? That says to you Delawareans, stop experimenting on your kids. Because that's all you're doing.
Having complete say in school. Having complete say in school. The parents should say, I got complete say to
They don't even know this stuff is going on for the most part.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, you people got to get involved because your kids it's coming towards your kids. You better get involved with this thing and stop it because what they're going to do is take your kids and alter them.
Just like I believe I said it in the beginning. If I didn't, like I said, they passed that law in Ohio, I believe.
I believe it's Ohio.
And tell them that story, Mr.
Well, there's a 17-year-old girl in Ohio who had a situation with her parents, and apparently she said she was going to be suicidal if they didn't make her a little boy or whatever. It was a difference in sex from what she was. The state took control of that child and took her out the home. So you people who think this is far-fetched, it was far-fetched to their parents too until they took their child. Now it's not so far-fetched. All we're saying to you people is pay attention to what's going on out there because these devious people are devious people and they lost the election. But they decided that they're going to continue to resist now. They're going to continue to do their own program of what they had planned to do anyway. And part of what they planned to do anyway was to indoctrinate and recruit your children into the now defunct Obama nation. Now, why did I say the Obama nation? Well, you know what? I tell you what, Barack Obama, because you ain't president no more. I can just call you Barack now. You're going to have a Netflix special. I hope you do one on my book I wrote about you and about your faggot and furrow administration. If you're going to do your Netflix, let me be one of your guests. I would love to tell them about how I wrote about you and your rainbow administration before you step foot in the White House. And that's a fact. It's called The Lamb's Book of Life, and it's about you, Barack Hussein Obama. Notice I stretched the Hussein, Obama. So you go on Netflix, and I'm going to have this all over the internet about you and this Obama nation that was yours that you're still trying to perpetrate a fraud on by now making sure that you motivate these changes in society so that you can now try to get our children indoctrinated into this transgender homosexual crap that you're trying to pull off. I don't like it. And I don't know whether you can tell or not that I don't like it. I didn't like it enough that I learned about this like last Thursday and filed a civil suit on this past Tuesday. That's how bad I didn't like it. Now you people are coming up with all kind of tricky mess out there, but this ain't going to fly. The idea that you people are going to have access to anybody's child without the parent being there, that ain't going to fly in Delaware. You may do it in Ohio, you may do it in Kansas, you may do it anywhere else, but you're not going to do it here. Let me tell you why you're not going to do it here. Let me tell you why you're not going to do it here. See, constitutional law is predicated on your constitution. Every state has a different constitution. Let me read you the part of our antecedent constitution of 1770. We have one of the oldest constitutions in America. Our constitution is as old as the original constitution of 1776. We are just that old. We are the oldest state in the country with a constitution as old as 1776.
And when he say antecedent, that's your foundation.
There we go. Well, let me read you the foundation of Delaware law. Delaware Constitution of 1776, Article 22. And also make and subscribe the following declaration, that I do confess faith in God the Father and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, and in the Holy Ghost, one God, blessed forevermore. And I do acknowledge the Holy Scripture of Old and New Testament as to be given by divine inspiration. Well, let me tell you how that works to you homosexuals and your transgender plans. This is a constitution that says the authority of God is the authority that is the requisite antecedent authority here. In order for you to get by this, you got to get by me and this.
Amen.
And you ain't going to get by either. You're not going to get by either. This idea, Proposal 225, is dead in the water in Delaware.
Absolutely.
It's dead in the water in Delaware because we're not having it here. And we're not asking you people, we're telling you people. We're not having it here.
And you ain't got the right under God's law or man to force your preserved, twisted, non-reproductive, suicidal culture on our children.
Thank you.
You ain't got the right. Period. And I'm pissed off that you would come up with some crap like that.
But they did, because that's what they do. And that's why we're here, to make sure that they know that you're not going to do it in Delaware, not going to do it here.
Legislature, have you lost your mind?
Yeah, they lost their mind.
Have you lost your mind?
They pull this stuff over all the time.
Are you serious?
Hey, Chris, how do you think they got the marriage bill passed? Because people will sleep and I'll let them get that passed.
Absolutely.
But not this time around. This ain't going to fly.
So that's why we're bringing it to y'all attention now, because like I said, a lot of y'all don't even know that this proposed 225 that they're trying to pass.
Hey, listen to me, people. Get off your rump and do something, because this is your children too. Not his grandchildren, my grandchildren. I got 6 grandchildren. You need to get off your rump and do something, because we can't do all this alone. We're going to try. We're going to put our best foot forward, but we need your help. You know that guy in the army that pointed your finger at you said? Look at us like that.
Okay.
That's correct.
So, that's pretty. I got my notice from the Delaware Supreme Court Administrative Office of the Courts. That case, I like to thank Judge Seitz, Judge Valahora, and I forgot the other one. I described you in the brief that I'm writing as Mo, Larry, and Curly, and so I just want you to know that you'll be getting the brief soon. And I refer to you as the Three Stooges. And my argument in my brief is that the Three Stooges show better legal disposition than you three do. Yes, I'm comparing you to the Three Stooges and say the Three Stooges show better legal disposition than you three do. Mm-hmm. That's what and that's the Delaware Administrative Office of the Court case. I also got the a dismissal of Verizon case. I'm going to appeal. I'm going to appeal. But that's where that one's at. Oh. Since I talked to you last, I remember I said I was going to sue WBOC. Well, they didn't get sued. But the U.S. Department of Justice, they got sued. They got sued. Oh, yeah, they got sued.
That's what we do.
They got sued. Oh, yeah, they got sued. So, but to WBOC, this brother here has a message for you. That's the way I do it. Because I'm just me.
Yes. My message to you is you're going to get sued. That's my message.
How long we been trying to get these people to talk for real? Over a year?
Over a year or two.
Yep.
We've been trying to get these people to talk to us, do this interview.
See, because he's a member of law enforcement, and he's more blue than black. That's what we found out. We found out that he's more blue than black. He looks black to me, but he's more blue than black. According to the NACP and according to Black Lives Matter, he's more blue than black. So we just wanted to make it stress to WBOC that you need to cover the story. How is it that I have Senator Christopher Coons and his defaulted behind in federal court, and you ain't heard a word about Christopher Coons' default? Christopher Coons defaulted on a racial discrimination complaint because when I sued him, I didn't tell you who sued him, I sued him. When I sued him, he didn't answer the complaint. It's called a failure to answer default under the rules of civil procedure. So he shouldn't be going on. So next time you see Chris Coons on TV, people, if you can, call him up and say that black guy that's doing the blogs, did he sue you? Well, if he sued you, why are you on TV? You shouldn't be on TV. If you got sued and you didn't answer the man's lawsuit, you shouldn't be on TV fronting and whatnot. Chris, guess what else I found, Chris? Because I do research. You know what I do? I found that you one of the ones behind this bill. Chris Coons, you one of the ones behind this Equality Delaware. You one of the ones behind it. Chris Coons. When I looked at the names involved in it, I found your name, Chris Coons.
Interesting.
Well, remember when I sued? Remember when I brought a complaint against Chris Coons because I went to him for help and he wouldn't help me. And when I said the only one you seem to want to help is faggots and homosexuals, that's when you said you were threatening to have the Capitol Police come and visit me. Remember, Chris? And that's when I sued you behind. Remember? Just want to get it fresh for you, Chris Coons. You and I don't have you and I, sir. I gave you the respect to call you up and give you that level of respect. But when you threaten to have the Capitol Police give me a visit, for what? Exercising my civil rights? Or is it because I'm not a homosexual? Is that what it is? The only one you can help is a homosexual. You can't help anybody else. You didn't help me. And you threatened me. That's why I sued you into a technical default. And if you had any ethics, you would have answered the complaint. You are an ethical fake senator. Because that's what you are, a fake senator. Oh, I'm sorry. I just tried to get out of my...
And WBOC is recommended in your operating procedures and
FCC procedures.
And FCC procedures that you recognize your community. Yeah, it's there.
You're going to get sued, BOC, because I had enough of you.
You didn't recognize your community, right?
I've had enough of you, WBOC. Well, let me say it this way. Mark Papura was on a Fox outlet broadcast through BOC. Right. If he was on TV and I sued him, how the hell am I not on TV? I'm just asking you, WBOC and Fox News Media. And all we are demanding, we're not asking you people for anything. We're demanding to be treated like human beings because that we have a right to do. It's called federal constitutional law. Have you people heard of that? We don't have to ask you for what the Supreme Court has guaranteed us as citizens. We don't have to ask you or beg you for what the Civil Rights Act of 1964 codifies in the law. We don't have to beg you for none of it. You people need to act like you know something. And right now you don't know. They want to make your little boys girls and your little girls boys and have access to either one. Sterilize access to either one. And let me tell you, point blank audience out there. If you don't get involved in this, then you don't care about your own children. And any community that don't care about their own children is really screwed the hell up. Now that's my perspective on it. But if you people are going to sit on your behinds and let these people sterilize your kids and do what in other states they want to do in Delaware, then you're really, really sick. And your kids couldn't depend on you. What kind of parents are you that your kids can't depend on you? What?
You're right. It's too late when they already got the cake.
Because once they sterilize your kid, that's permanent. Your kid's permanently altered for life. So now your 10 or 12-year-old, a year from now, like the studies identify, in a year they may change. Your kid can't change because he's permanently altered forever. Yeah. You need to wake the hell up out there, people, because this is what they want to do to your kids. You know why? Because they can't do it to you. How do we know? Because you voted them out of the situation. Yeah. They can't do it to you. They're mad and they're angry, and they're going after your kids.
Yeah. And if you interfere, you'll be eating jelly and peanut butter.
You'll get 3 hots in a cot.
3 hots in a cot. It's called sanctions.
For you maintaining the God-given, let me say it again, God-given authority of your birthright, which is your kids. These people are crazy. What they're proposing is nonsense. It's ridiculous. And they're going to pull it off if you don't stop them.
God left it to you to train up your children, not the government. Read Ephesians. It's in there. You church people that sit in church, read Ephesians.
Oh, there's some churches who behind this crap.
I know.
ACLU, you behind this crap. Chris Coons, you behind this crap. What? I'm done. Look, I'm done. I'm done.
Well, we want to thank our video audience out there for listening.
Oh, but before you go, Google and YouTube. We know you're not putting our videos out there like you could. We know you have algorithms and all kinds of search engine modifications that you could do. These things could be going viral every time we send them out there. YouTube, huh? Google. So don't think we don't know what you're doing. Just want to put that out there for the understanding of Google and YouTube that we know you ain't putting us out there like you could. So we don't want you to think that for a second we don't know what you're up to. Google and YouTube. But you know what? We serve a mighty God, and he is mighty tired of you people. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. We want to thank you again, video audience, for watching our videos. Again, we want to thank Mr. Chris Miller and Mr. Eshet Austin for what they're doing to help the community, to help protect your kids from this devious corruption government